Parashat Re'eh. Re'eh anochi noten lefnechem hayom beracha u'klala. Kadosh Baruch Hu is letting us know through Moshe that He puts before us two paths, two choices, two options. The option of being blessed and Halila, the opposite of being cursed. The very first word of the Parashat Re'eh is a very, very powerful language, very powerful expression. It's much more powerful than just listen. Take a look. Moshe Rabbeinu is reminding us, take a look, take a close look. Simu lev, as we would say in Hebrew, pay attention. To what? Noten lifnechem. There are various ways to interpret the following words, and I'm going to give several ideas here. Noten lifnechem, I'm putting before you. What does that mean, I'm putting before you? Everything depends on you. Hayom, today, not tomorrow. Today you still have a chance. While one is alive, he still has a chance to perform mitzvot. Not so once one departs from this world. There's no longer he can do anything for himself. If he's fortunate and he left behind good kids, they're able to give him a little bit of a boost that the neshama can receive as a result of leaving behind children that observe the Torah mitzvot. But for the most part, the neshama can no longer do anything for itself once it is in the upper world. Hayom, today is your only chance. Hayom, don't push it off for tomorrow, because you don't know if there will ever be a tomorrow. Hayom, another idea behind the word Hayom is that every day is different. Every day is unique. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us a certain amount of days to live in this world. You can actually say HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us a certain amount of minutes to live in this world. And there is a reason for every moment that we're here. Every moment, every day has its own mission. And that is why we are judged every day. Some of us perhaps think about Rosh Hashanah as the day of judgment. That's the day of judgment for the ma'asim that were performed the whole year. But there is also the judgment, an evaluation report, if we can call it that, every single night. When one goes to sleep and the neshama goes up, he gives an accounting, a reckoning of what he did during that day. So there's a reckoning for the day, there's a reckoning for the year, there's a reckoning for one's entire life once one departs from this world. And then there will also be a reckoning for all the gilgulim, all the reincarnations, all the times that we may have been in this world on various missions. That reckoning will come during the Hayat HaMetim, when the dead will rise. So Hayom has a significance. It's not just the year. Every single day is important. Another idea behind Hayom is that you have individuals who one day are considered Reshaim, are considered wicked, based on their performance, based on their attitude, based on their actions. There are some days that these same individuals can be tzaddikim, can be righteous. In other words, a person can be one day one way, another day another way. And I'm going to share with you a story, a very interesting story that happened just to prove this point, how people can be different every single day. It doesn't mean they should be, but nevertheless, every day is important. Even if one day one did not do such a good job, you should not become depressed and discouraged, because there can be another day where he will be on a much higher level. And in the end, of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take the average. You know, in Social Security, they also do that. One may have had different incomes during the year, sometimes lower and sometimes higher. And they have a formula on how to figure out what they're going to give you. In any event, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu evaluates a person's life, there may be some days where he was a rasha, based on his actions. He should not become discouraged, he should not despair. There are days that he can be a tzaddik. There was once an individual who was a malshin. And malshin is an informer. And that is one of the worst things for a Jew to be. He's in danger, because everybody is going to be after him. You don't want to be a Jewish informer. Chaz v'shalom. It's a terrible sin, number one, and everybody will hate your guts. To tell the authorities, especially in those days, in the past, when the Goyim hated us, they still hate us, but in those days, we were much more persecuted, we had less freedom, and to turn over another Jew meant that he was not going to a comfortable prison, but he was going to a dungeon. It was a very serious situation if a Jew got into trouble. But there was such a malshin, unfortunately, whether he did it for money or not, makes no difference now. He was causing a lot of trouble to this community. And the community one day decided, we're going to the big tzaddik, the Jose Lublin, where they come in, as it was customary to come into a tzaddik, to a rebbe, with a pitka, with a handwritten note, a request. And what was the request of the shalichim that came to this rabbi? They put down the name of the malshin, curse him. Curse this guy. Eliminate him. He's terrible. He's causing us so much trouble in this community. That was the request of the Shalichim. So they came to the rabbi with this request on a piece of paper. The rabbi takes a look at the name, whatever the name was, and he says, Tzaddik. They're in complete shock. This is a rabbi who has a reputation of having Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration. He can look at a name and know everything about the individual. The rabbi is saying Tzaddik. They figured, you know what, they're going to try again another time. Maybe the rabbi had too many people that day. Maybe it was not so clear. Maybe they should rewrite it again on another piece of paper. So they came another time, another day, and on the following day, the rabbi takes a look at the name of this informer, and he says, Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol, the high priest. That's a big praise for an individual. They didn't know what to do. They were really puzzled. They said that they're going to try one more time before they leave. One more attempt to get the rabbi to curse this individual who was really a rasha. He was a wicked man. And here the rabbi is saying, Tzaddik, Kohen Gadol. They come in once again, and the rabbi this time says, Kohen Gadol b'sh'at ha'avodah. Wow, that's even better. That this man, this name that is there, he's reading now, is compared to the high priest during the time he's doing the avodah, HaKodesh in the Bet HaMikdash. Now they were really confused. Now they didn't want to leave. Now they said, you know what, we're going to stay. Something is definitely strange now. So they stayed behind another day. Finally, on the very last day of their trip, they come to the rabbi takes a look at the name again, and this time the rabbi says, Rasha Merusha. And he of course says whatever he says. Now of course they were happy, but they didn't understand why yesterday Kohen Gadol B'Shat Avodah Tzaddik. So they needed an explanation. So they asked the rabbi, could you please share with us, what's your hashbon here? He says, yeah, it's very simple. When you came to me 2 days ago, this man who's a rasha was preparing his child to be circumcised. And he was tzaddik, waya osek b'mitzvah. When you came to me the next day, the day of the Brit Milah, the father of the boy was compared to a Kohen Gadol. When you came to me the third time, it was during the time of the Brit Milah. He was like a Kohen Gadol b'sha'at ha'avodah. When you came to me today, obviously, there's no more Brit Milah. Now I can tell you he's a Rasha Merusha. He went back to be what he really, really is. But at the time that you came to me, he just happened to have had a boy and he was preoccupied with the Brit Milah, so he was a tzaddik. At that moment I couldn't say anything. There are times that the worst people are involved in doing something good, and at that moment, on that day, they could be a tzaddik. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of course, takes a look at the whole big picture and knows the truth. Hayom, nevertheless, Hayom, one can be a tzaddik, regardless of what he was yesterday. Another idea behind the word Hayom, Baal Teshuvah may feel terrible, especially if he does Teshuvah at the age of 55. Most of his life has gone by. So many years wasted, so many hataim, so many sins. What now? Hayom, Hayom, today, I'm giving you a second chance. You can start a new chapter in your life. It's okay. It's never too late. Start from today. Another idea behind the word re'eh, we said before, the re'eh is a very powerful word, a very powerful expression, is examine yourself. Take a look around. Ask yourself why things happen. If Am Yisrael is suffering today, why are there such terrible decrees? Re'eh, try to take a look, try to figure it out. Don't just ignore it. Take a look, re'eh. Anochi, what is Anochi? Anochi means, Hashem says on himself, myself, I give before you. Hashem is telling us, everything comes from me. There are no mikrim. There are no things that happen by chance, by coincidence. Noten, I want to give. I want to give blessing. But I need recipients. I need people that want to receive. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, on his own, wants to give, wants to bless. Lifnechem, before you, just remember that even though I give and everything is from me, you do have free will. You make the decision, you make the choice. Last week's Parashat, in Parashat Ekev, we spoke a little bit about the very important concept of a kol b'dei shamayim, that everything is in the hands of heaven, except for the fear of heaven. That is where man is judged based on his actions, his performance of mitzvot, or otherwise. So we spoke about a kol b'dei shamayim chutz mirat shamayim. In this week's parasha, we come across another idea, that even though a kol b'dei shamayim, even though everything is in the hands of heaven, it is possible for us to change what was decreed, whether it was decreed by mazal, or whether it was decreed because of a gezerah, of a decree at the spur moment. we can change it for the better, that's called beracha. Or through our ma'asim, through our deeds, we can change something for the worse. That is kilala. Beracha, therefore, is not status quo. Beracha, therefore, is not status quo. It's not the default. The default is the mazal of an individual, whatever he was born with. But that mazal can improve, that's called beracha. Or halila, the worst, and that's called kilala. What the Torah is telling us is that even though we have a certain mazal, it is possible to change. It's very difficult to change. Sometimes it doesn't pay for us to change. That is what our tikkun is, perhaps. That is what needs to be for some reason that we don't know. But it is possible to change. And that is why we pray. Hashem says, you know what? I want you to pray to me. I want you to have that relationship. I want you to know that it is possible to change and not to just give up. That's it. That's the mazal. It's predetermined. There's nothing to do about it. Abraham Avinu thought so too, that there's nothing he can do about his personal situation. According to his mazal, and he was a great astrologer, according to his mazal, what did he see? That he had no children coming. Not from him, not from his wife. Kadosh Baruch Hu tells Abraham, these are the words of the Midrash, leave alone your astrology chart for a moment. Stop thinking astrologically. I'm going to raise you above the mazal. I can take you out of the mazal. I'm going to add a letter to your name. Abraham will become Abraham. Sarai will become Sarah. And you will have children once I change your mazal. And eventually they had children. It's no big deal. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can do it. Shemuel was once going down the street and he met up with an astrologer, a non-Jewish astrologer. And the non-Jewish astrologer either was friendly with Shemuel or somehow they got to know each other. Shemuel was a very wise man. This astrologer tells Shemuel, you see those two Jewish boys going into the forest to chop wood? You see that one boy on the left? He's not going to come out alive from the forest. I see on his astrological chart that he's going to die. And Shemuel says, not necessarily so. What do you mean not necessarily so? I tell you that that's what's going to happen. Shemuel says, no, he's Jewish. I tell you, if he's Jewish, not necessarily so. After a couple hours, as the evening came close, they two waited and they saw two boys coming out of the forest. So the astrologer takes a look at Shemuel and says, you know what? Something is wrong. Either I don't know something you know, or I made a miscalculation. Shemuel says, no, you made no miscalculation. You were right based on astrology. But something obviously happened in the forest. Let's find out. They called the boy, tell us what happened while you were at the forest. So the boy said, well, we went to chop some wood today and we took our lunch. And as we were about to sit down to have lunch, this poor man approached me and begged me for some food that he hasn't eaten for several days. And I had pity on him and I gave him my lunch. Shemuel turns around to the astrologer, you see? Tzedakah tatzil mimavet. Am Yisrael is above the mazal. If they perform tzedakah, the tzedakah is powerful enough to spare them from death. A snake was going to bite this boy. And he was going to die according to his mazal. But he performed a very beautiful mitzvah, which canceled either the bad decree or which overturned the mazal. One of the two. Similar story happened to the daughter of Rabbi Akiva. On the day of her marriage, astrologers told Rabbi Akiva, your daughter is going to die on the very day of the chuppah. What should Rabbi Akiva do? He knew that there is a lot of truth to that. To the mazal. Mazal is mazal. And he was expecting the worst. But he got ready for the chuppah nevertheless. On the day of the chuppah, the girl is always busy. The kala is always busy. And the daughter of Rabbi Akiva was busy doing her hair. Now, as she was preparing to do her hair, she took out one of the pins in her hair and put it into the wall. She was undoing her hair and put the pin into the wall. Now, right before she did that, something very interesting happened. Right before she did this, a poor man came to her door, and some say it was the Satan, the Malach HaMavet, and asked her for food. And she went and gave him her meal, what she was going to have for the wedding night. When she went back to do her hair, and she took out that pin and put it in the back, she didn't realize she stuck the pin into the head of a serpent. Once she took the pin back out from the wall to put it into her hair, the snake came down. And what she saw was a dead snake before her. When her father came in, she probably screamed and was somewhat in shock. When her father came in, Rabbi Akiva, and said, what happened here? She told him the whole story and how the poor man came beforehand and how she put the pin into the wall. Says, oh, I see. You know that according to your mazal, you were supposed to leave this world today. Utsdaka tatzil min mavet. However, because of your charitable act on a very difficult and very tense day for you, obviously HaKadosh Baruch Hu spared you this gezerah. So we see from this that Am Yisrael is above the mazal. What does above the mazal mean? Don't ever confuse it. People will tell you Am Yisrael has no mazal. It's not true. Am Yisrael does have a mazal, but we are above. What above means is that we can change it through teshuvah, through tefillah, through tzedakah. It is possible, but most of the time it does not happen so easily, unless it's a decree. There's a big difference between a decree, which is impromptu, which could have been made on Rosh Hashanah this year, or it could have been made last night, versus the mazal that a person is born with a certain package. That is the package that he has to live with for some reason. Nevertheless, we can ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to make our life easier. We can seek a tzaddik's blessing to have children, chas v'shalom, if there weren't any. But for the most part, there's a reason why everybody is born into a certain mazal. How long he will live, how much money he will earn, what kind of a life he will have in general. But because we are above the mazal, we can still change it. What kind of protection do we have, as we say in Hebrew? What kind of a relationship do we have with the Kadosh Baruch Hu that He allows us to change it? On two occasions, the Torah tells us what the secret of this relationship is. One is that we are a segula, mikol ha'amim. We're a special nation. The Kadosh Baruch Hu has with us a very special relationship because we have a special mission. And then He tells us in this week's Parashat, Banim atem l'Hashem, you are His children. We are Hashem's children because we are His children. Even though He created the entire world, we have a special relationship. And because of that special relationship, we're able to ask Him some favors, including changing the mazal. Yeah.
You said once before that Torah is supposed to be aware of it.
That's right. Rabbi Akiva was aware of it. He did not ignore it. There's nothing he could do about it. You were going to ask something. Okay, if it's relevant to what we're asking, then you go ahead and ask it. But I prefer if it's not as relevant that it should be asked later on. Okay, there's another part of the mazal. That's the portion of the mazal that has to do with one's character and one's nature. We have a predisposition to do certain things. We have certain characteristics, certain traits, certain inclinations. Some people get angry quickly. Some people are lazy. Some people have a love for money. Others a love for honor. Others are very tense and nervous, right? The makeup of individuals is quite different, and that also has to do with the mazal. This portion of the mazal you cannot change. No matter how hard you try, you are what you are. Whatever you always were, that is what you will be. However, don't misunderstand me, you can't control yourself. You can't control yourself. You can subdue your nature somewhat. You can tame yourself, if we can use that word for human beings, right? You can obviously make believe, at least if you do a good job on the outside, that you're not what you really are. That's called control. That's called discipline. That's called working on one's midot. That is not only possible, it is important to do. That is one of the challenges that every human being has, Jew and non-Jew, is to control himself. To be, as we say in Yiddish, a mensch. To become a mature, responsible, law-abiding citizen. Even though we have certain desires, even though we have certain interests, no, we have to fit into a certain mold if we want to survive in this world, if we want to be loved by others, if we want people to like us, if we want to get along with people, not get into trouble. You have to have derech eretz, you have to have manners, you have to control yourself. So it is possible to control, but it's not possible to change. One's nature is there to stay. But that's one of the challenges that he has to deal with in life. There was a child, during the time of the Gemara, that his mother took him to an astrologer, and she wanted to know what kind of a nature he will have. And the astrologer tells the mother, your boy is going to be a thief. He's going to like to take other people's money away. You know, not necessarily a thief to become wealthy, but there's different kinds of thieves. You know, they do things for different reasons, out of jealousy, out of whatever. So your child has that tendency to steal, take what is not his. She was very, very disappointed, very upset. She went to the rabbi, she went to the yeshiva. Rabbis, what do I do? They didn't say don't believe in that. They didn't say ignore it. Obviously this man knew what he was talking about. They told, you know what, just make sure his head is always covered with kippah. In this way, when he has the kippah on him at all times, he will have the fear of heaven on him, and he will not think of stealing. Okay? So the mother followed this instruction. Early on, she made sure that the boy always had a kippah on his head. And sure enough, the boy was growing up and did not get himself into trouble. One day, the mother took her son on a picnic outside. And there were many trees in the neighborhood with fruits, trees that belonged to people. And because they were outside, the wind blew off the boy's kippah. As soon as the kippah fell off his head, the boy ran to the neighbor's tree to try to pick some fruit. In other words, the Gemara was showing how this was true, that he had this inclination, how the kippah was able to hold him back, and how for one moment that the kippah was off his head, that Yirat Shamayim somehow weakened, and he fell back to his nature. He lost the control. Kippah is very important. To continuously remember that Hashem is above us. Hashem is watching over us. Well, the same is with the kavayah, but with the women, it's mostly out of modesty. A very important point now to keep in mind is, therefore, there is no such thing as mazal tov and mazal ra. Even though we wish people mazal tov, in reality, every mazal is good. When we say mazal tov, we mean that everything should be comfortable and easy, and that you should not know of any pain and suffering. Everything should go smoothly. But in reality, when it comes to mazal, since the mazal is for the benefit of the individual, regardless of what he has, that is his tikkun. That package is always going to be good. Hakol letovah. Whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is good. So there's no such thing as mazal tov, mazal ra. But there is something called beracha uklala. That is a whole different story. And that is what we're going to be talking about now. The difference between beracha and klala, blessing and a curse. Because mazal, whatever a person's mazal is, even though it's a very difficult mazal, even though we can't figure it out, even though there's so many ups and downs, and there's so many kinds of mazalot. You can have an individual who's a millionaire. He's just so lucky. It's not really luck, it's his mazal, right? That whatever investment he has does well. He knows when to buy, when to sell. But he has terrible children. Terrible, rebellious children. Don't want to have anything to do with their father. I don't wish it on anybody. All the money in the world is not worth having this kind of a family. Some other people who have a very difficult parnasah, they barely make ends meet, but the husband and wife love each other so much that they cannot part. They want to be together at all times, like two doves. Beautiful. I think that's more important than anything else. You have others who have good children, average parnasah, but the wife is lazy. The wife gets angry. All kinds of mazalot, all kinds of combinations. And the man suffers. The man has a hard time. No matter how much he tries to please his wife, and I have to be fair to the women, no matter how much she tries to please her husband, he still is the same stubborn mule. Doesn't give her a compliment, never says a kind word, doesn't remember her birthday, right? Or a wife who doesn't take care of her husband. Whatever. There are situations where people do not have a good relationship. That's part of their mazal. That's part of their tikkun. But everything else is okay. There are others who have a good wife, good children, good parnasah, but they're very ill. At 45, chas v'shalom, they had to have bypass surgery. And it wasn't because they overate. At 55, they're struck with diabetes. At 70, some other problem. The skin. And there's others who had a beautiful life and they were healthy, but as soon as they reach 80, they got Alzheimer's. And all of a sudden, they forget everything. They don't recognize their family members. There's another one who falls into a coma for the next 3 years. There's another one who gets lawsuit after lawsuit. Everybody's after him for some reason, and he doesn't know why. There's all kinds of mazalot. Regardless of one's mazal, it's always the tovah, it's always a tikkun, and one should accept it. It doesn't mean one should not pray. One should not go to a tzaddik. One should not try to improve his ma'asim. He should, because we're above the mazal. It may be possible to change it, even though it usually doesn't happen, because that's our tikkun. What we're going to talk about now, beracha uklala, because there is something called beracha uklala, two very opposite camps. I call them camps because if you read Parashat today, you will see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Am Yisrael, when they come to Eretz Yisrael, to split up in two groups, to stand on Har Eval ve Har Gerizim, on two mountains, to read out the berachot and the kelalot, the blessings that will come on you if you follow the Torah mitzvot, Chalila, the curses that will pursue you if you do not. What is the Torah trying to tell us here? There's something called the beracha uklala. Yes, there's only two camps. By the way, the Torah says, don't think that you could be a parva Jew in the middle. Either you belong to the camp of beracha, either you are an observant Jew, or you belong to the camp of kelala, you are a non-observant Jew. There's no such a thing in the Torah anywhere, something called traditional. Masorati. Nothing like that. Either you belong to the camp of beracha, observant, or you're non-observant. There's no reform, there's no conservative, there's no traditional, there's no reconstructionist, shtuyot, all the shtuyot. There's only observant and non-observant. That's it. Are you an observant Jew? People tell me, so you're Orthodox? I said, no, I'm an observant Jew. What about yourself? Very simple. Very simple. Don't confuse me with all these terms. The Torah says there's only two camps. Which one do you belong to? The blessing or the curse? There is only one time where a person can be in the middle. Anybody know when you can be in the middle? Benoni. Middle. On Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah there are 3 books. For tzaddikim, for reshaim, and for benonim. For middle. What's the middle? He's not a complete tzaddik yet. We have to wait till after Kippur to give him a chance. Well, meaning that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you revert to your mazal. Nothing will change for the better this year. Because you have not demonstrated to be a tzaddik. Benoni. But Benoni is not a status that one can be in a whole year. As the Rambam says, you do more mitzvot, you're a tzaddik. You do less, or you do averot, you're a rasha. And when it comes to Tahiyat HaMetim, the rabbis tell us there will not be any Benoni. There's no such a thing. Today, we have this impression that there are people in the middle. That's only an impression. When the truth comes out, when Mashiach arrives, when Tahiyat HaMetim comes about, there will be either tzaddikim, those who observe, those who want to attach themselves to God, and those who do not care, or did not care, I should say. Reshaim. The word Rasha sounds very, very powerful. He's a wicked man. No, not necessarily. That is how we use it. All the word Rasha really means is that he goes against the word of God. That's what a Jew does when he does not follow the instruction. That's what a Jew does when he's Mechalel Shabbat. He's taking the Sefer Torah and stepping on it, or cutting out the piece that he doesn't want to. Very, very simple. It sounds harsh, but that's the reality. There's nothing in the middle. Either you follow the halakha, or you don't. Either the camp of the beracha, or you're in the camp of kilala. Yes. Okay, that's a problem that has to be dealt with, and obviously he needs help. And I can give you some ideas after the lecture. Nevertheless, we have free will, and unless we're being forced into a situation where we have no control, then obviously that's different. But for the most part, we have free wills, and we make the decision of what we want to become, to which camp we want to belong. The only area, perhaps, where there are some differences in one's maasim and one's actions is if somebody does a sin by zadon or by shegaga. Did he do it intentionally? Did he do it accidentally? Did he do it unintentionally? Or did he do it out of negligence? There are various degrees of sin, and obviously not everybody is treated alike, depending why did he do this. He did not know. He wasn't taught. Well, obviously Hashem takes all that into consideration. That's different. So there are degrees in the sin, in committing halila and avera. Nevertheless, there are only 2 camps. There's no 3rd camp in the middle. The Torah Kedosha in Parashat is letting us know that there will be, unfortunately, in the future, many Jews who will not follow the Torah mitzvot. And therefore, the Torah says like this, Re'eh. Re'eh means you, in a singular language. You. And then it says, Lifnechem, before you, before the many. The Torah first begins with a Lashon Yahid, and then turns to Lashon Rabim. What's going on over here? The Torah is reminding us, unfortunately, there will be many Jews who will not be observant. Therefore, pay attention to this. You're not alone. You have a responsibility. Kol Yisrael Arevin Zelazeh. We're all responsible for each other, and we're all in the same boat. In the Holocaust, you had the greatest rabbis being shot down because we're all responsible for each other. We were all in the same boat. Therefore, don't just worry about yourself. Worry about your neighbor, about your friend, about your relative who may not be as observant. Try to get him to become more observant because you are responsible for him. The Torah lets us know that there are blessings and curses. For what reason? So we should not be surprised. I know that this has happened many times, that rabbis have given explanations of why the Holocaust occurred. And there were many individuals who were very upset at these explanations, that they are minimizing the Holocaust. How dare they say what they say? And all the rabbis were saying is pointing to what the Torah says, or to what the Kabbalah says, and elaborates even more. Why these terrible tragedies occur. There is a reason for it. And it's not a simple reason. Anti-Semitism. That would be simple. No. Why is there anti-Semitism? It's much deeper over here. When the Torah tells us that there are blessings and curses, the Torah wants us to remember, if you ever come across a situation like the Holocaust, a terrible tragedy, a terrible tzara, just remember, you were warned before that this may happen. When the Torah tells us that there are blessings and there are curses, the Torah is letting us know, and we will see it later on in other Parashiot, that there is a reason why these things happen, and you are being warned beforehand. That's what the Torah is letting us know. Don't therefore ever think that this is a coincidence. Don't ever think that if you run away and create your own state in Israel, you will be escaping the ghetto of Europe, as many thought they did. No, the enmity of the Goyim will pursue you to Israel, as it has. So you are being warned that these things are going to happen. Just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu warns us, the prophets have warned us. All these warnings are for what purpose? Whenever you do see something happen, you will be able to open up the Chumash, if you have the courage to do so, and you will be able to see it inside. Oh, the Torah already said that these things will happen. Does anybody know the very tragic fact in Jewish history that there were some mothers who ate their infants? Many people are not aware of this. There were some mothers during the times of terrible, terrible hunger that actually ate their newborn infants. Newborns. But I'm not going to get too much into that because it's a very, very tragic and difficult part of our history. But the Torah says that will happen. It is written, those words, without exaggeration, that will happen. It did not happen a lot, but it has happened. In other words, all the terrible descriptions of what can happen, unfortunately did happen, because we were not careful to avoid the problems that the Torah says will come about. The Prophet reminds us, from heaven nothing bad happens. If something bad happens, it's because it's of our ma'asim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't bring down something bad. If something bad, what appears to us as bad, is happening, it's because it's of our ma'asim. Another important point in this week's parasha is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be testing us from time to time. Testing us, Hashem knows exactly what's going on in our minds and our hearts. Why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu have to test us if we love Him or not? Not for Him to know, for us to know. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu tests us, He puts us through a test. Then eventually we are able to figure out where we are holding in our relationship with Him. Are we going to pass the test because we love Him or not? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu tests us from time to time. And these tests will come about in many different ways by all sorts of individuals who are called mesitim u'medihim, those who try to mislead us. And the most difficult part of all of this is that some of those misleading agents are Jews. As the Prophet says, your greatest enemies, your greatest troublemakers, the greatest misleaders of Jewish people will be Jews themselves. There will be false prophets, Jews and non-Jews. There will be those that will use even witchcraft to try to convince you, let go of this Torah. Be very careful. Whenever you see them, don't associate with them, don't pay attention, obviously. Be very, very careful. Hashem is testing you. In the end, they will fail. But in the meantime, you are being tested. And how should we deal with them? The rabbis always tell us the best way to become immune from all these terrible influences is by being attached to the Torah. By learning Torah. When a Jew learns Torah, he's not ignorant. He's able to defend himself. When all these cult leaders try to convince him that this is better for you. We have the Torah. Those who learn the Torah are able to defend themselves, are able to see through the transparency of these cult leaders, through their lies, through their forgeries. One who is ignorant can easily fall prey to these cults. Unfortunately, many Jews have fallen prey to all these cults out there because they're not learned. So stay attached to the Torah. That is your greatest defense against these influences. All the nisyonot that we get from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all the tests, have an additional benefit. When one is tested, he becomes stronger. His emunah is strengthened. Not only is his emunah strengthened, the Goyim will be able to see how faithful we are to our religion, to our people, to our God. In this week's parasha, you find another idea of defending yourself from all these elements. When it comes to Avodah Zarah, the Torah tells us in 6 expressions to eliminate it, to destroy it, to remove it, to uproot it, to chop it down. וניתצתם את מזבחותם ושיברתם את מצבותם ואשריהם תשרפום באש ופסילי אלוהים תגדעום ואיבדתם את שמם מן המקום ההוא. And then elsewhere it says, abed te'abedun, destroy, eliminate, get rid of. All these languages, all these expressions of uprooting and eliminating all these obstacles that may be in your way in Eretz Israel. If you don't remove them, they will cause you trouble. These are obstacles. These can mislead you. In the same way, we have 6 leshonot, 6 expressions of destruction. For further emphasis of how important this is, I think that perhaps what corresponds to these 6 leshonot are 6 leshonot, 6 expressions of being attached to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to the Torah. As the Pasuk says, Achrei Adonai Elohechem telechu, you should go after your God. Ve'oto tirau, and you should fear Him. Ve'et mitzvotav tishmoru, and you should guard His commandments. Uve'kolot tishmau, and you should listen to His voice. Ve'oto ta'avodu, and you should serve Him. Ubo tidbakun, and you should attach yourself to Him. Why all these? To attach, to listen, to serve, to keep, to guard, to fear, to go after. Complete involvement. A Jew has to be very, very much involved in his religion. It's not a religion for once a week. It's not a religion for once a year for those who come Rosh Hashanah and Kippur and they think that's it, that makes me Jewish. It's a religion that requires continuous involvement in order for one to remain attached. These Mesitim, these leaders, have a very special nickname in the Torah. They're called Beliyal, Anshei Beliyal. Beliyal is a term to describe very, very wicked people. The worst. What does the word Beliyal come from? Beli'ol, without the burden. If you try to figure out what's going on in these people's mind, are they sick? We're talking about Jews right now, Jews that mislead other Jews. What's wrong with them? Don't they know that the Torah, they were taught, they went to Cheder, their father, their grandparents may have been rabbis. What's wrong with them? No, they're Beliyal. What's Beliyal? Beli'ol. They don't want to have a burden. They don't want the Ol Torah mitzvot. And one of the ways to avoid having this burden, one way to escape from it, is not only to ignore it, not only to remove it, and to not observe it, but to go and mislead others as well. Because by misleading others, it is able to silence your conscience that may be bothering you. Get other people to believe in what you believe. Lead other people astray as well. For what reason? Beliyah, let's be without a burden. And when you're without a burden, you don't have to give din v'cheshbon to anybody. You can do whatever you want. There's nothing telling you what is right and what is wrong. Beliyah, because there's no ol. They want a life of no responsibilities. When one succumbs to his ta'avot, to all his desires, Khalila, he may come to this. Otherwise, how can he justify what he does? He therefore lets go everything. That is what's going on in these people's mind. They don't want anything to do with it. Why? Because they want a life without ol, without a burden. Therefore, one rabbi used to say, one of the greatest sins a Jew can commit is if he forgets, if he ever forgets that he's the son of a king. We are Hashem's children. We have royalty. We should not forget where we come from. If a Jew forgets where he comes from, who he is, he's a very, very weak individual. Not only is he weak, he will not have anything to transmit to future generations. And what is expected of us to transmit to future generations? Jewish pride. Be proud of who you are, even though you're suffering. Imagine if you were right now in Russia, not right now, but 25 years ago. You know how much prejudice there was? Even if you were smart, you were not necessarily given the best jobs. It was hard, it was tough to be Jewish. No, but if your father gave you that Jewish pride, you didn't care. Yes?
Misleaders.
Yeah.
Jews who are Tanu Chanishma Jews who have no kind at all. How do you explain, Rabbi, who were left the yeshiva and the Haskalah, who these were educated yeshiva boys who were not ignorant, not Tanu Chanish? How do you explain their being misled?
No, they were not misled. People left yeshiva for different reasons. Remember, not everybody had, as we call it in Yiddish, sitzfleisch, to be able to sit down. They did not have the patience to learn Gemara. This is a time, back then especially, where the Jews, the majority of them were poor and suffering. And to make a living was something very good and very important, as it always is. But especially back then, if one did not see himself becoming a rabbi or a teacher, he looked for an opportunity to leave the school. And if his parents were not very supporting of him being in the yeshiva, that even gave him more of a reason to leave. And that's when the problems began. Not in the yeshiva, really, even though that's where the root of the problem was, but the problems later on became more of a problem, more serious, because when you leave the walls of the yeshiva, you expose yourself to all the influences, and little by little, the individuals deteriorate in their spirituality, become less and less attached. They drop the kippah, they drop the minyan, they drop the blessings, they drop Shabbat, they drop kashrut. Little by little, it did not happen overnight. So, but people left for different reasons. People were misled or did what they did for different. There's not one common reason for all of them. But obviously, if they would have the defense of the Torah around them, then they would be stronger. But not everybody was able to hold on to the Torah for too long. That is one of the reasons why the rabbis were so adamant about not going to college and not even introducing secular studies into a Jewish school, not even for 2 hours a day. We don't want to change anything. We don't want to make even a small opening of the secularism, that it should infiltrate the Jewish mind and give them ideas. Because we're only human. A child sees something, he's curious and wants to look into it. Then he falls, Khalila, if he's not strong enough. I mentioned the fact of how important it is to transmit Jewish pride to the children, to the future generations. Another idea which is very important is having the correct attitude, positive attitude towards the mitzvot. Some people have the wrong attitude. They claim things are difficult. There's even an expression in Yiddish, schwer zu sein naid, that some Jews have used in Eastern Europe. Not religious Jews, but more modern. Use an expression that you should never use, that it's difficult to be Jewish. It's a very dangerous expression to say. And you'll see why in a moment. There are many people that come up with excuses of why not to do this and why not to do that. They have complaints. If you ask them, why aren't you doing this? They say, I don't have the time. Why don't you buy yourself this? I don't have the money. They have excuses when it comes to mitzvot. What do you mean you don't have the money for Jewish education? You just bought yourself a Lexus. For that you have money? If you look deep down at these individuals who offer excuses and justifications to their actions, if you look deep down, all they are excuses. It's a cover-up. They're trying to cover up their real selves. And what is their real self? The real self is an individual who's more interested in himself. He loves himself more than he loves the Torah mitzvot. How do I know that? Because somebody who you really love, or something that you really love, you spend a lot of time with them. If you care about something, you spend time with them. You spend money on it. The more you spend on something or on somebody, the more you love it, the more you like it, the more you're interested in it. It's very simple. And therefore, when one does not do a particular mitzvah and comes up with an excuse, the excuse is not real. It's just a way to justify why, in other words, why he's more interested in himself and not in what he should be interested in. It's more of just a cover-up. He's really revealing to you indirectly that he doesn't really care about it. The excuse is just a farce. It's not really anything. There are no real excuses. Very, very rarely. Somebody offers you an excuse of why not to do a mitzvah, why not to do something that is so valuable, that was so valuable, precious to our forefathers. It's only because he loves himself more. And when a person offers excuses and tries to justify his actions, all he's doing is covering up a set of priorities, a wrong set of priorities. If you ask him what your priorities are, you will be able to see through him that his priorities are wrong. Priority number 1, I have to have the latest car. Priority number 2, it's adifut. He has to have the latest car. He has to own a home. That's the American dream, right? And he has to have a home in Palm Springs too, maybe. He has to own a yacht. These are just necessities. So what is he really saying? He's really saying he wants to invest on himself more than he wants to invest on mitzvot. And in reality, HaKadosh Baruch Hu from time to time tests us. How will we use our money? How will we manage our time? And there are various kinds of tests. That's what I want to talk about next. One of the tests we mentioned before was a test of individuals that come and attempt to mislead us. In this week's Parashat, you find another kind of test, the test of how we use our money. The commentators tell us 2 difficult tests exist: poverty and wealth. Which one do you think is more difficult, to be rich or to be poor? To be rich or to be poor? Well, they're both difficult. Why? What's so difficult about being rich? Because if you're rich, there is a danger of becoming arrogant and forgetting. As we saw before, you may forget. The difficulty of poverty, I think, is well known to everybody. It's very difficult to survive. But the rich man has a more difficult challenge. And because of that, the Torah tells us how to deal with this difficulty in this week's parasha. There may come a time, the Torah says, that you will not want to help out your brother. During the year of the Shemitah, you're not going to grow anything. You're not going to cultivate your field. You may not want to share your wealth with others. The Torah says, be careful with that kind of an attitude. Be careful with the attitude that you have towards the mitzvot. The mitzvot are for your good. But what should someone do who has this problem? What's his problem? He has a lot of money, and the more money a person has, the more difficult it is for him to part with his money. So this man has a problem of parting with his money. So what do we do? So the Torah gives him 3 pieces of advice. Advice number one, if you read the Parashat, you will see that the Torah uses a double language. What is that? What is that trying to tell us? If you get into the habit of doing something a long time, it will come easy to you. Do it a lot, you will get used to it. Number two, because of this, God will bless you. You will not be lacking. People are concerned if they give money, they will be lacking. And remember, the reward of giving tzedakah in this world is tremendous, even in this world, not only in the world to come. There is a beautiful mashal. Two individuals. One lost his wallet. He had $100. And the next day he went looking for his wallet, and he couldn't find his $100, but he found $200 in cash. And he says to himself, I wish I did not lose my wallet. Now I could have had 300. Is he thinking straight? No, but people think like that. Now let's take a look at another second individual. There was a guy who was running with a bag of grain, of seed. And there was a hole in the bag, and it all spilled. He came home with an empty bag. He felt terrible. A few weeks later, he goes to that same field, and he sees all the wheat that grew as a result of that grain. Is he going to think for a moment that had he had that original bag, he would have more grain now? Impossible. Had it not been for that grain spilling, he would not have had all this new grain. Says the Torah says, if you give, it's because of your giving that you're going to be blessed. Don't think had you not given, you would have had more. Shtuyot. That's silly. Hashem says, the Torah is therefore calming down all these individuals who for different reasons don't want to give money. You will be blessed. And for giving tzedakah, you may be even blessed in this world. Another piece of advice, the Torah says, remember you were once upon a time a slave. Put yourself in the man's shoes. Just imagine you were the poor man. That is exactly what one rabbi did when he went to get a donation from this rich man. It was a cold winter night. He was collecting for wood, for a widow. So she's going to have some fuel. So he knocks on the door, and the rich man says, please come in. No, come outside. But it's freezing cold. It's 20 below. No, come outside. I have something to tell you. He tells him he's collecting for wood, and it's a widow, it's a big mitzvah. Fine, I'll give you, Rabbi, but come in. Now I'll come in after you agree to give. So, but Rabbi, why did you make me come outside and tell me? You could have told me the story comfortably inside. I want you to feel what the widow feels right now when she has no wood. When we see a poor man, we have to put ourselves for a moment in their shoes to be able to sympathize a little bit with their plight. When it comes, we talked about testing. We're being tested by Hashem, but we're not allowed to test Hashem except for one test. Maaser. Hashem says, test me. If you give maaser, you will never be lacking. Why? Because if you give maaser, Hashem says, you know how to use your money, I'm going to give you more. I'm going to always give you because you know how to manage your money. You know how to use your money. You give it to others. You share it with others. You are someone that I can entrust with money. Giving 10% is therefore a segula that one will never be lacking. What should a person feel if he was once upon a time rich and he became poor? These things happen. Rich, poor, poor, rich. It's a galgal. Rabbis tell us a poor man is considered like he's dead. And it could be when a person loses all his wealth that he was really supposed to die. But instead Hashem took his money away instead. Losing one's wealth can be a tremendous kapara. I'd like to finish with a very important point, and that is that most of us, I don't think, know what to invest in when it comes to stocks. If we would, we'd be very, very rich, and we wouldn't be doing whatever it is that we're doing for a living. Most people do not know which stock is going to go up, which stock is going to go down. The Torah, however, does tell us which stock is going to go up and which one we should choose. Uvacharta b'chayim. I give you berachot, I give you kelalot. This one is obvious which one you should choose. But for some reason, not everybody chooses it. You know why? Because they are misled by all these temptations in this world. What does the temptations have to do with anything? Because the Yetzer Hara says, I pay cash. Hashem says, Letivecha b'haritecha, I will pay you in olam haba in check dahui, with a post-dated check. That is what Letivecha b'haritecha is, Hashem says. I don't repay you here. So people are really misled. They see cash. They see enjoyment instantaneously. The Yetzer Hara pays cash. And Hashem says, Letivecha b'haritecha, I will pay you later on. That is why people are misled. But Morai v'Rabotai, don't be misled. Mashal lema davar domeh to an individual who was at a crossroads. He can go right and he can go left, both taking to the same destination. He is told that the road on the right, the first half is very treacherous. The second half is easy, smooth sailing. The one on the left is smooth sailing for a while, but after a while it's very treacherous. Which one should he take? The one on the right. This world can be treacherous, but if we go through it, we do the mitzvot, we will be smooth sailing in the world to come. I don't think it pays to go smooth sailing in this world and not take advantage of the world to come, because this is a temporary world. This is a prosdor. I don't think it's a good idea to invest here. The real investment should be reserved for the life of eternity. This world is only a corridor. Therefore, don't invest in this world. Choose life. Choose eternal life. The life of Olam Haba.